Classical conditioning. Classical conditioning contributed by Ivan Pavlov. Classical conditioning is a process by which an originally neutral stimulus, by virtue of its association with the natural stimulus, gains the property of eliciting a particular response that was once elicited by natural stimulus. Here what happens is, here a neutral stimulus, when we compare with another natural stimulus, gains the property of eliciting particular response that was elicited by natural stimulus. It's a basic form of learning in which one stimulus comes to serve as a signal for the occurrence of the second stimulus. Ivan Pavlov, he was a famous scientist who focused primarily on researching the process of digestion of dogs. He accidentally discovered classical conditioning. He found that placing meat powder on animals' mouth could experimentally induce dogs' salivation as a reflex. He noticed that the sight or smell of the food, the dish which was kept, and even the footstep of the experimenter is enough to start the dog mouth is watering. This new and acquired response is called conditioned reflex because it depends on environmental conditions. So here, for proving classical conditioning, the Ivan Pavlov did an experiment. What he done is he sounded a bell just before the food was brought into the room. A ringing bell does not usually make a dog's mouth water. But after a specific number of trials, Pavlov dogs begin to salivate as soon as the bell is rang. It was as they had learned that the bell signaled the appearance of food and their mouth watered on that cue, even if no food followed. Thus, the dog had been conditioned to salivate in response to a new stimulus, that is, bell, which would not be normally have caused any response. So, in this picture, you can see that when the dog is see the food, mouth is watered, and when the experiment what he is doing is he rang the bell and given the food. The first 2 days there is no response, but after few days when the dog is heard the bell of the sound of bell, he starts to water the mouth. So after the food is not given also, when he had the sound of bell, he watered the mouth. That is the classical conditioning. Ivan Pavlov made a model based on the classical conditioning process. Here, before conditioning, the conditioned stimulus, that is bell, they are not giving any response. Before conditioning, the sound of bell that not producing any salivation in the dog. But unconditioned stimulus or the food or meat powder, the unconditioned stimulus that produce unconditioned response, that is the presence of food that creates the salivation in the dog mouth. Before conditioning, that is the response. During conditioning, conditioned stimulus followed by unconditioned stimulus. Here the bell is followed by food, unconditioned stimulus or meat powder. So unconditioned response came, that is salivation. The dog is salivated at that time. Then after conditioning, the conditioned stimulus itself that creates conditioned response in the dog, that is the salivation. So conditioned stimulus is the bell of the the sound of the bell that produce the conditioned response, that is the salivation in the dog. So this is the experiment done by Ivan Pavlov.